Marcus Chun had been mining asteroid XK 739 for 3 months when he found the creature. The remote rock floated in the outer rim of the Kepler system, far from any trade routes or patrol ships. It was exactly the kind of place where man could work alone and think about the mistakes that had brought him here. The mining laser cut through the asteroid's surface with surgical precision, revealing veins of rare metals beneath. Marcus guided the beam carefully, his practiced hands steady despite the cramped cockpit of his one-man mining rig. The lucky strike wasn't much to look at, a battered hole welded around a fusion engine and mining equipment, but she was his, bought with the last of his savings after the court-martial. The radar pinged softly, indicating another chunk of processed or ready for collection. Marcus was reaching for the controls when a new signal appeared on his screen. Something large was embedded deep in the asteroid, something that definitely wasn't metal. "What the hell?" Marcus muttered, adjusting the scanner's frequency. The object was massive, easily the size of small spacecraft, but the readings made no sense. It was giving off faint biosignatures mixed with energy patterns he'd never seen before. His finger hovered over the communication button. Standard mining protocol required reporting any unusual discoveries to the Colonial Authority. But Marcus had learned not to trust the Authority, especially after they destroyed his military career for doing the right thing. Besides, he was 3 days from the nearest relay station. By the time anyone arrived, he could have investigated and decided what to do. The mining laser carved a careful path toward the anomaly. As Marcus worked deeper into the asteroid, the bio readings grew stronger. Whatever was in there, it was still alive. 20 minutes later, his laser broke through into a natural cave system. The asteroid's interior had been hollowed out, either by natural processes or something else entirely. Marcus deployed his suit's external cameras and guided them into the opening. The first thing he saw was scales. Massive, iridescent scales that shifted from deep blue to silver in his lights. Then he saw the wings, torn and bloodied but unmistakably real. The creature was easily 40 feet long, with a serpentine neck and a head that belonged in ancient legends. "A dragon," Marcus whispered, his voice echoing in the cramped cockpit. "An actual goddamn dragon." The creature's eyes opened at the sound, fixing on his camera with an intelligence that made his breath catch. They were golden, with vertical pupils that dilated in his lights. Despite its massive size and obvious injuries, there was no aggression in that gaze. Only pain and exhaustion. Marcus had seen that look before, in the eyes of wounded soldiers he'd carried off battlefields. The look of someone who had given up hope, but was too stubborn to die. The dragon tried to move, and Marcus could see the extent of its injuries. Burns covered most of its body, not for natural causes, but from energy weapons. Military-grade plasma burns. Someone had shot this creature down and left it to die in the asteroid's embrace. Marcus found himself reaching for his suit's medical scanner before he realized what he was doing. The dragon watched him with growing awareness as he maneuvered his mining rig closer to the cave opening. "Easy there, big guy," Marcus said, knowing the creature couldn't hear him, but needing to speak anyway. "I'm not going to hurt you." The medical scanner painted a grim picture. The dragon was dying. Its life signs were fading, and the plasma burns had damaged critical organs. Even with the creature's remarkable physiology, it had maybe hours left. Marcus stared at the readings for a long time. He could leave. Should leave. This wasn't his problem, and getting involved with unknown alien species was exactly the kind of thing that had ended his military career. The smart thing would be to file a report and let the xenobiologists handle it. But as he watched, the dragon's breathing became more labored. One massive eye fixed on him again, and Marcus saw something in that golden gaze that reminded him of his daughter. The same trust, the same faith that someone would help when it mattered most. His daughter was gone now, another casualty of the war that had taken everything from him. But this creature was here, dying alone in the dark, and Marcus found he couldn't turn away. "Ah, hell," he muttered, engaging his suit's maneuvering thrusters. "Jenny always said I was too soft for my own good." The mining rig's manipulator arms weren't designed for medical work, but Marcus had field medic training from his military days. He jury-rigged his plasma torch to act as a surgical cauterizer and used his or containers to mix a crude anesthetic from his emergency medical supplies. Working in vacuum made everything harder. He had to be incredibly careful not to damage his suit while maneuvering around the dragon's massive form. The creature watched his every movement, but remained perfectly still, as if understanding that Marcus was trying to help. The worst burns were along the dragon's flanks and right wing. The plasma had eaten through the scales and into the tissue beneath, leaving wounds that wept a blue-green fluid. Marcus had never seen alien physiology before, but injury was universal. He cleaned what he could and sealed the worst of the burns with surgical adhesive. The dragon's breathing eased slightly as Marcus worked. When he moved to treat a burn near its head, the creature made a sound. Not quite a purr, but something that vibrated through the asteroid and into his bones. Marcus chose to interpret it as approval. The work took hours. His suit's power cells were running low by the time he finished treating the visible wounds, and he knew there were internal injuries he couldn't address. The dragon needed real medical attention, the kind only available at a major colony or research station. Marcus checked his navigation charts. The nearest Colonial Authority outpost was 6 days away, even pushing his engines hard. The dragon wouldn't survive the journey, and his cargo hold wasn't equipped for life support anyway. But there was another option. 3 days Spinward Lay Haven Station, an independent research facility that operated outside Colonial Authority oversight. They specialized in xenobiology and had the kind of advanced medical equipment that might save the dragon's life. The problem was that Haven Station was run by the same underground network that had sheltered Marcus after his court-martial. Going there would mean calling in favors he'd hoped never to use, and it would put the station at risk if the Authority traced the dragon back to them. Marcus looked at the creature again. The dragon's eyes were closed now, but its breathing was steadier. The emergency treatment had bought time, but not much. He thought about the official report he would file if he contacted the Authority. The dragon would become a research subject, studied, and dissected to unlock the secrets of its physiology. There would be no thought for the creature's intelligence or suffering, only for what humanity could learn from it. Marcus had seen what happened to prisoners of war who fell into the wrong hands. He tried to stop it once, and lost everything as a result. He wouldn't make that mistake again, but he also wouldn't be complicit in another atrocity. "Looks like we're going on a road trip, big guy," he said, beginning the delicate process of extracting the dragon from its rocky prison. Moving a 40-foot dragon in zero gravity required more creativity than Marcus had ever needed in his mining career. He used his manipulator arms to create a makeshift sling from or netting and slowly guided the creature out of the asteroid. The dragon remained unconscious through most of the process, which was probably for the best. Getting it into his cargo hold required him to vent the atmosphere and remove most of his mining equipment. The dragon barely fit, even with its wings folded tight against its body. Marcus rigged emergency life support and set the environmental controls for a nitrogen-oxygen mix similar to Earth's atmosphere. As the Lucky Strike pulled away from the asteroid, Marcus sent a coded message to Haven Station. He kept it simple: "Old friend coming home. Need the dock ready. Bringing a wounded bird." The reply came 6 hours later. "Safe harbor waiting. Bring her home, Marcus." The journey to Haven Station took 3.5 days of hard burning. Marcus pushed his engines beyond their safety margins, knowing that every hour mattered. He spent most of the trip in the cargo hold, monitoring the dragon's condition and adjusting the life support as needed. The creature woke on the second day, its golden eyes opening as Marcus performed his morning medical check. For a moment, neither moved. Then, the dragon made that deep purring sound again and carefully shifted position to make Marcus's work easier. "You understand, don't you?" Marcus said quietly. "You know I'm trying to help." The dragon's response was to extend one massive paw. No hand, Marcus realized. The appendage had thumbs and fingers scarred from old injuries, but undeniably intelligent in design. It moved slowly, carefully, until it gently touched Marcus's helmet. The contact lasted only a moment, but in that instant, Marcus felt something pass between them. Not telepathy exactly, but a recognition of shared purpose. The dragon understood that Marcus was risking everything to save its life. On the third day, the dragon's condition began to deteriorate again. The plasma burns were fighting off the medical adhesive, and infection was setting in despite the antibiotics Marcus had administered. He increased the pain medication and spent long hours talking to the creature, sharing stories of his daughter and his time in the service. The dragon listened with obvious intelligence, its golden eyes tracking Marcus's movements and expressions. Sometimes it would make soft sounds that almost seemed like responses. Marcus found himself wondering what kind of civilization had produced such a being and what had brought it to die alone in an asteroid field. Haven Station appeared on his sensors late on the third day. The research facility was built into a captured asteroid, its surface bristling with communication arrays and docking ports. It was smaller than a Colonial Authority outpost, but infinitely more welcoming to someone like Marcus. The docking controller's voice crackled over the radio. "Lucky Strike, this is Haven Control. We have medical teams standing by. Dock at Bay 7. It's been cleared for special cargo." "Copy, Haven Control. Coming in hot." Dr. Sarah Kim was waiting as Marcus guided the dragon out of his cargo hold. The xenobiologist took one look at the massive creature and whistled softly. "Marcus-chun, what have you brought me this time?" "Something that needs our help," Marcus replied, "and probably something that's going to change everything." The dragon's eyes opened as the medical team approached, and for a moment Marcus was afraid it would panic. Instead, it looked at each face in turn before fixing its gaze on Dr. Kim. The purring sound rumbled through the station's hull. "It's beautiful," Dr. Kim whispered, "and it's trying to communicate." As the medical teams worked to stabilize the dragon and move it to the station's surgical bay, Marcus watched from the observation deck. He'd done the right thing, he knew that. But he also knew that his simple act of mercy was about to set in motion events that would reach far beyond Haven Station. The dragon was the first of its kind that humanity had encountered. Its very existence proved that intelligent life existed beyond the Colonial Authority's carefully controlled sphere of influence. And if there was one dragon, there were almost certainly more. Marcus had learned long ago that no good deed went unpunished. But as he watched Dr. Kim's team work to save the creature's life, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: hope. Maybe this time, humanity would do better. Maybe this time, they would choose compassion over conquest. The dragon survived the surgery. 3 days later, as it recovered in Haven Station's medical bay, it spoke its first word in human language: thank. Marcus-chun had no idea that his decision to spare a dying creature would echo across the galaxy for years to come. He couldn't have imagined that dragons had perfect memories and a sense of honor that spanned generations. All he knew was that he had saved a life, and that somehow that single act of mercy felt like the most important thing he had ever done. 3 weeks after the surgery, the dragon had grown strong enough to speak in complete sentences. Dr. Sarah Kim spent her days in the medical bay, documenting every interaction while the creature, who called itself Kethvar, shared fragments of its story. "My people," Kethvar said in its deep, rumbling voice, "have watched humans for many cycles. Some of us believe your species showed promise. Others disagreed." Marcus visited daily, bringing reports from the outside galaxy that grew more troubling each week. The Colonial Authority had stepped up their expansion efforts, claiming new systems with increasing aggression. 3 independent colonies had been forcibly incorporated in the past month alone. "They're looking for something," Marcus told Dr. Kim during one of their private meetings. "My contacts in a merchant fleet say the Authority is mapping every asteroid field and scanning for energy signatures. They're not just expanding, they're hunting." Dr. Kim glanced toward the medical bay where Kethvar rested. The dragon's hearing was remarkably acute. "You think they're looking for dragons? I think someone shot Kethvar down for a reason. And I think whoever did it reported back to their superiors. The dragon confirmed their suspicions the next day. As Marcus helped with its physical therapy, gentle exercises to restore function to the injured wing, Kethvar spoke of the attack that had nearly killed it. I was scouting, the dragon explained, moving its wings slowly through the prescribed motions. My clutch brother Veltar and I were investigating human expansion into the outer systems. We had heard reports of your people's aggressive tendencies. Marcus paused in his work. Clutch brother, dragons are born in groups of 3 to 5. We share bonds deeper than your family structures. Veltar and I have been together for 400 of your years. 400 years. Marcus tried to process that lifespan and failed. What happened to him? Kethvar's golden eyes dimmed. We encountered a human patrol fleet near the Rigel system. 3 warships flying colonial authority colors. We attempted peaceful contact, broadcasting friendship signals in your mathematical languages. Dr. Kim looked up from her notes. Did they respond? Yes. They opened fire immediately. Veltar was struck down in the first volley. I carried his body to the nearest asteroid field and hit it where scavengers could not reach. Then, I attempted to escape. The dragon's voice carried a weight of grief that transcended species barriers. Marcus had heard that same tone from soldiers who had lost their squad mates, the particular anguish of surviving when others didn't. They hunted me for 3 days, Kethvar continued. I was wounded and could not fly at full speed. When they finally cornered me, I expected death. Instead, their commander spoke to me over radio frequencies. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. What did he say? He said that dragons were too dangerous to exist, that humanity would not share the galaxy with creatures who could challenge their dominance. Then, he ordered his ships to disable me, not destroy me. Kethvar's massive head turned toward Marcus. He wanted me alive for study. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. The Authority hadn't just attacked peaceful explorers. They had planned to capture and experiment on them. It was the same logic that had led to the atrocities Marcus had tried to prevent during his military service. They left me in the asteroid when their scans showed my life signs failing, Kethvar said. A final cruelty to let me die slowly rather than grant an honorable death. Dr. Kim set down her tablet. How many dragons are there, Kethvar? The dragon was quiet for a long moment. Not many. We are an old species, slow to breed, and careful with our lives. Perhaps 1,000 remain in our home systems. And they all know what happened to you. By now, yes. Dragons have ways of speaking across the void. My people know that I was struck down by humans, and they know that humans captured me for experimentation. Kethvar's eyes fixed on Marcus. But they do not know that one human chose mercy over profit. Marcus felt the weight of that statement. 1,000 dragons, each probably as powerful and intelligent as Kethvar, had received only half the story. They knew that humanity had attacked their scouts and tortured one of their own. They didn't know that humans were capable of compassion. We need to tell them, Marcus said. Your people need to know that not all humans are like the Authority. How? Dr. Kim asked. We're one small research station. The Authority controls all the major communication networks. Kethvar stirred on its medical bed, a movement that made both humans step back. Even injured, the dragon was an impressive sight when it decided to assert itself. There's a way, Kethvar said, but it requires trust that may be difficult for your species to give. Marcus had learned to recognize that tone. It meant Kethvar was about to ask for something significant. What kind of trust? I must return to my people and speak for humanity. But I cannot make the journey alone. My injuries are too severe, and my ship was destroyed. I need human allies to carry my words. Doktor, Himfronet, you want us to travel to Dragon Space? Wouldn't that be incredibly dangerous? For most humans, yes. Dragon Space lies far from your colonies, in regions where your ships cannot easily travel. But more than that, my people are angry. The loss of Eltar has stirred old fears about aggressive species. There are those among us who advocate for preemptive action against humanity. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Preemptive action? Dragons are not numerous, but we are old and powerful. A single dragon can destroy a human colony if it chooses to do so. 100 dragons working in coordination could cripple your entire expansion effort. The casual way Kethvar delivered this information made it even more chilling. The dragon wasn't boasting or threatening, simply stating facts about its species' capabilities. But if I return with human allies, Kethvar continued, if I can show my people that some humans chose to help rather than exploit, it might prevent a war that would devastate both our species. Dr. Kim and Marcus exchanged glances. The request was enormous. Travel into unexplored space, approach a species that had every reason to view humans as enemies, and hope that their good intentions would be enough to prevent a galactic conflict. I'll go, Marcus said. Marcus, that's insane, Dr. Kim protested. You're talking about flying into the territory of beings that could incinerate your ship with a thought. And if I don't go, they might incinerate every human colony in the outer systems. Marcus looked at Kethvar. How long do we have before your people decide to act? The Council of Elders is debating now. Some advocate for patience, others for immediate retaliation. I estimate perhaps 2 of your months before a decision is reached. 2 months to prevent a war between humanity and a species that could destroy colonies at will. The smart thing would be to contact the colonial authority and let them handle the situation. But Marcus had seen how the authority handled first contact situations, and he knew it would end with more dead dragons and an even more furious enemy. I need a ship, Marcus said. Something faster and more durable than my mining rig. Dr. Kim stared at him for several seconds before sighing. You're really going to do this, aren't you? Someone has to. And I'm the one Kethvar trusts. Then you're not going alone. Dr. Kim pulled up files on her tablet. The Aurora's Dream is docked here for repairs. An exploration vessel that was damaged surveying the Centauri Nebula. Captain Rosa Martinez owes me a few favors, and her ship has the range for interstellar travel. Kethvar made the purring sound that Marcus had learned indicated approval. You would risk much for people you have never met, Dr. Kim. I'm risking much to prevent my own people from starting a war out of ignorance, Dr. Kim replied. But yes, I suppose I am. The next week was a blur of preparation. Captain Martinez proved willing to undertake the mission once she understood the stakes, though she insisted on bringing her full crew rather than relying on volunteers. The Aurora's Dream was refitted with additional life support systems to accommodate Kethvar's bulk and specialized atmospheric needs. Kethvar spent the time teaching Marcus and Dr. Kim basic dragon etiquette and language. Dragons, it turned out, had complex social rituals that govern interactions between strangers, and making the wrong gesture could be interpreted as a challenge to combat. Remember, Kethvar said during one of their lessons, dragons value directness and courage above all else. Do not attempt to deceive or manipulate. We can sense dishonesty through chemical changes in your scent. Speak truth, even if that truth is unflattering to your species. Marcus practiced the formal greeting gesture, a specific way of holding his hands that indicated peaceful intentions. It felt ridiculous at first, but Kethvar's reactions told him he was getting it right. What will happen when we reach your people? Dr. Kim asked. I will request an audience with the Council of Elders. As one who was grievously wronged, I have the right to speak before any final decisions are made. You will stand as my witnesses, testament to humanity's capacity for honor. And if the Council decides, that doesn't matter. If they vote for war anyway. Kethvar's expression grew solemn. Then, you'll have the honor of delivering humanity's first and final warning. The night before departure, Marcus stood in the observation deck watching the stars. He thought about his daughter Jenny, who had always believed that people were basically good if you gave them the chance to prove it. She would have understood why he was risking everything for a species he'd barely met. Dr. Kim joined him at the viewport. Second thoughts, third and fourth thoughts, Marcus admitted. But I keep coming back to the same conclusion. If we don't try to prevent this war, Millions of people are going to die. Maybe billions. The authority will call us traitors for making contact without their approval. Marcus laughed bitterly. They've called me worse things for better reasons. At least this time, I'm doing something that might actually matter. The Aurora's Dream departed Haven Station at dawn, station time. Kethvar rode in the specially modified cargo bay, while Marcus and Dr. Kim studied star charts in the ship's small laboratory. The journey to Dragon Space would take 10 days, pushing the ship's engines to their limits. As they entered hyperspace and the stars vanished in swirling streams of light, Marcus wondered if he was making the biggest mistake of his life. He was betting everything on the hope that reasonable beings could find a way to avoid destroying each other. But as he thought about Kethvar's careful words and patient teaching about the dragon's willingness to risk its own people's anger for the sake of peace, Marcus felt that familiar spark of hope. Maybe this time will be different. Maybe this time, humanity would choose understanding over fear. The Aurora's Dream raced through the void toward an uncertain destiny, carrying 3 humans and 1 dragon toward a meeting that would determine the fate of 2 civilizations. In the cargo bay, Kethvar meditated in the manner of its people, preparing for the most important speech of its long life. The dragon remembered every detail of Marcus's kindness in the asteroid, every gentle word during the long recovery, every risk the humans had taken to save its life. Those memories would be its weapons in the battle for peace. In the vast emptiness between stars, hope traveled at the speed of light toward a rendezvous with destiny. The first sign that they had entered dragon territory was the complete silence of human radio frequencies. For 3 days, the Aurora's Dream had received the usual chatter of merchant vessels, colonial authority patrols, and independent colonies. Now there was nothing but the empty whisper of cosmic background radiation. Captain Rosa Martinez studied her navigation screens with growing unease. According to our charts, this system should have at least 2 mining operations and a refueling station. But I'm not detecting any human presence at all. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. You think they're all gone? Or hiding, Dr. Kim suggested. Word might have spread about dragon attacks. In the modified cargo bay, Kethvar stirred from its meditation. The dragon had grown stronger during the journey, though it still moved carefully to avoid stressing its healing injuries. We are close now, it announced. My people know we approach. How can you tell? Captain Martinez asked over the intercom. Dragons call to each other across the void. I have been broadcasting our intentions for the past day. Kethvar posts. The responses have been mixed. Marcus didn't like the sound of that. Mixed how? Some welcome my return and express curiosity about my human companions. Others demand that I bring you to them for judgment. A few suggest that humans cannot be trusted under any circumstances. Dr. Kim checked her tablet, reviewing the dragon etiquette lessons they had studied. What happens if the hostile faction wins? Then you will die, and I will be accused of betraying my species for the sake of our enemies. Kethvar's tone remained calm, but Marcus detected an undercurrent of concern. However, as one who was wronged, I have the right to demand a full council hearing. Even my enemies must honor that tradition. The Aurora's Dream dropped out of hyperspace 6 hours later, emerging into a system that defied human expectations. 3 stars orbited each other in a complex gravitational dance, their combined light bathing a dozen worlds in shifting spectrums of color. Several of the planets showed clear signs of technological civilization, orbital structures that gleamed like jewels against the stellar backdrop. But it was the dragons themselves that took Marcus's breath away. They came from all directions at once, their massive forms moving through space as if vacuum were merely another type of atmosphere. Some wore what appeared to be technological harnesses that glowed with energy, while others flew unencumbered except for the natural magnificence of their forms. The smallest dragon was roughly Kethvar's size. The largest was easily 3 times as long, its scale shifting through colors that had no human names. They moved with fluid grace that made human spacecraft look clumsy by comparison. Jesus Christ, Captain Martinez whispered. How many are there? Marcus counted 40 dragons in visual range, and his sensors suggested dozens more approaching from beyond the immediate area. Each one was a creature of legend made real, and each one could probably destroy the Aurora's dream without significant effort. They're coming to escort us, Kethvar explained, its own excitement evident. This is a great honor, even under these circumstances. To have so many dragons gather for a single arrival, it has not happened in centuries. The largest dragon, the one with the color-shifting scales, approached the ship directly. As it drew near, Marcus could see that its harness incorporated communication equipment. When it spoke, its voice filled the Aurora's dreams bridge with harmonics that seemed to resonate in his bones. Kethvar, child of the Emerald Clutch, you have returned from the darkness. We rejoiced when your voice reached us across the void. Elder Zitkalan, Kitvar Ripliet Formali. I come before the council with witnesses and wisdom gained through suffering. And you bring humans. The elder's tone shifted, becoming cooler. This is unprecedented, young one. Some among us question your judgment. Marcus felt Captain Martinez tense beside him. The dragon's casual reference to Kethvar as young was a reminder that they were dealing with beings whose lifespans stretched across millennia. I bring those who showed mercy when none was expected, Kethvar said firmly. They saved my life at great risk to themselves, expecting no reward. We shall see. Follow the escort to the council chamber. Your humans will be accommodated. The escort of dragons formed a complex pattern around the Aurora's dream. Their movements synchronized with a precision that suggested either telepathic coordination or centuries of practice. Captain Martinez followed their guidance, bringing the ship toward a massive structure that hung in orbit around the system's largest planet. The structure defied easy description. It appeared to be part space station, part living organism, its surfaces flowing and shifting like water while maintaining overall stability. Docking bays opened and closed in response to approaching ships, and the entire edifice pulsed with a gentle bioluminescence. The heart of discourse, Kethvar explained as they approached. It has served as the center of dragon civilization for over 10,000 years. Every major decision affecting our people has been debated within its chambers. Dr. Kim stared at the structure in wonder. It's beautiful. How was it built? It grew, Kethvar said simply. Dragons do not construct as humans do. We guide growth, shape living systems, work with the universe rather than imposing our will upon it. As the Aurora's dream was drawn into a docking bay, Marcus reflected on that fundamental difference in philosophy. Humanity terraformed worlds, carved up asteroids, and bent space itself to their will through hyperspace technology. Dragons apparently prefer to work with existing systems, shaping rather than destroying. The docking bay sealed itself around their ship, and atmosphere flooded the chamber. When the outer doors opened, Marcus got his first look at a true dragon environment. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in misty heights that might have extended for miles. Bioluminescent panels provided gentle light that shifted through spectrums visible to both human and dragon eyes. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy, and Marcus felt a tingling sensation against his skin that suggested the presence of electromagnetic fields beyond his understanding. Dozens of dragons waited in the chamber, arranged in what Marcus assumed was some form of formal hierarchy. At their center stood an ancient being whose scales had turned pure silver with age. This dragon wore no technological harnesses, but power radiated from it like heat from a star. The eldest, Kethvar, whispered, Morthek the Eternal. She is over 2,000 years old and has witnessed the rise and fall of a dozen civilizations. Marcus felt suddenly, acutely aware of his own species' youth. Humanity had barely achieved interstellar flight within the last century, while this being had watched the cosmos turn for millennia. The eldest spoke, and her voice carried the weight of eons. Kethvar of the Emerald Clutch, approach and be recognized. The ceremony that followed was unlike anything in human experience. Kethvar flew to the center of the chamber, moving with ceremonial precision. The other dragons began a low, harmonic song that resonated through the structure itself. The sound was hauntingly beautiful, carrying notes of grief, welcome, and ancient power. When the song ended, the eldest addressed Kethvar directly. "You have suffered greatly, child. Your pain echoes in the void, calling for justice. Yet you return not alone, but in the company of those who share the blood of your attackers. Explain this paradox." Kethvar's response was formal but filled with passion. "I return with proof that not all humans embrace the darkness that struck down Veltar and wounded me unto death. These three risked their lives and freedom to save one they had never met, expecting no reward save the knowledge that they had prevented suffering." The eldest attention turned to Marcus, Dr. Kim, and Captain Martinez. Her golden eyes seemed to look directly into their souls, weighing their intentions and finding something. Marcus wasn't sure what. "Humans," the eldest said, "you stand in a place where no member of your species has ever been welcome. Some among us believe you should not leave this place alive. Why should we trust beings whose representatives have already proven their hostility?" Marcus stepped forward, remembering Kethvar's lessons about dragon etiquette. He performed the formal greeting as best he could, knowing his human movements must look clumsy compared to dragon grace. "Eldest," he began, hoping his translator was rendering the words correctly, "I cannot speak for all of humanity, any more than Kethvar can speak for all dragons. I can only speak for myself and my companions. We chose to help because it was right, not because it was profitable or safe." A rumble went through the assembled dragons, approval from some, skepticism from others. Marcus pressed on. "My people are young and often foolish. We make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones. But we are also capable of growth, of learning to be better than we were. The humans who attacked Kethvar represent our worst impulses. I hope that our actions represent our best." Dr. Kim stepped forward as well. "We've studied Kethvar's injuries, eldest. The weapons used were military-grade plasma systems, fired with the intent to disable rather than kill. This was not the action of fearful colonists defending themselves. This was a deliberate act of aggression by those in power. And yet you serve the same government that authorized this attack," another dragon interjected. This one was smaller than the eldest, but carried itself with obvious authority. Its scales were deep red with gold markings that seemed to shift and flow. "How do we know you are not spies, sent to discover our weaknesses?" Captain Martinez spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. "Because if we were spies, we would have come armed and in numbers. Instead, we came with one ship and 3 people, carrying a dragon we could have sold to the highest bidder or dissected for scientific knowledge." The red dragon hissed, a sound that made all 3 humans step backward involuntarily. "Your words are pretty, but words are wind. What proof do you offer that humanity can be trusted?" Marcus felt the moment balanced on a knife's edge. Everything they had risked, everything they had hoped to achieve, came down to this question. He thought about Jenny, about the soldiers he had served with, about all the ordinary people who did extraordinary things when no one was watching. "I offer myself," Marcus said finally. "I will remain here as a hostage against my people's behavior. If humanity attacks dragon territory again, if we prove that we cannot learn from our mistakes, then you may do with me as you see fit." The chamber fell silent. Even the gentle hum of the structure's life support systems seemed to fade into nothing. Marcus felt Dr. Kim and Captain Martinez staring at him in shock, but he kept his eyes fixed on the eldest. "Interesting," the ancient dragon said finally. "You would give your life to guarantee your species' good intentions." "I would give my life for the chance that both our species might find a better path forward," Marcus replied. "The alternative is war, and war benefits no one except those who profit from destruction." The eldest considered this for a long moment. Then she turned to Kethvar. "And you, young one, do you believe these humans speak truth?" I believe Marcus Chun saved my life when he could have left me to die, Kethvar said firmly. I believe Dr. Sarah Kim treated my wounds with the same care she would show her own people. I believe Captain Rosa Martinez risked her ship and crew to bring me home when they owed me nothing. And I believe, Kethvar continued, that judging all humans by the actions of their worst representatives would be the same mistake those humans made when they judged all dragons as threats to be eliminated. The red dragon made a sound of disgust. Pretty speeches will not bring back Veltar. They will not heal the wounds in your body or the scars in your spirit. These humans ask for trust they have not earned. Then, let them earn it, a new voice said. The speaker was a dragon of medium size whose scales seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When it moved, Marcus had the unsettling impression that he was looking at a piece of living shadow. I am Nixtalen of the Void Clutch, the shadow dragon said. I propose a test. Let these humans prove their commitment to peace through action rather than words. The eldest inclined her massive head. Speak your proposal, Void Child. The humans claim their governments do not represent all of their people. Very well. Let them return to their space and gather others like themselves, those who choose cooperation over conquest. Let them build a coalition dedicated to peaceful contact between our species. Nixtalen's eyes fixed on Marcus. If they can present us with a human government that officially renounces aggression against non-human species, that guarantees the safety of dragon scouts in human space, and that agrees to joint exploration and resource sharing, then we will have proof of their sincerity. And if they fail, the red dragon demanded, then we proceed with Kalerthek's proposal, Nixtalen said calmly. Total war against human expansion. Marcus felt his heart sink. The shadow dragon was asking them to essentially overthrow the colonial authority and replace it with something completely different. The logistics alone would be staggering, not to mention the political impossibility of convincing human colonies to submit to oversight by alien beings. But then he looked at Kethvar, remembered the dragon's patient teaching and quiet courage. He thought about Dr. Kim's willingness to risk everything for the possibility of peace, and Captain Martinez's decision to carry them into unknown danger. If they could do the impossible, maybe others could too. How long will we have? Marcus asked. 1 year, the eldest said. In human reckoning, sufficient time to organize your coalition and present their formal proposals to this council. And during that year, no dragon will enter human space unless invited. No attacks will be made on human installations. The eldest's tone grew stern. But neither will we tolerate further aggression against our people. If human forces attack dragons during this period of grace, the test ends immediately. Marcus looked at his companions. Dr. Kim nodded slowly, her expression determined. Captain Martinez simply shrugged and said, I've hauled stranger cargo than revolution. We accept, Marcus said. 1 year to prove that humanity can choose a better path. The dragons dispersed gradually, leaving Marcus, Dr. Kim, and Captain Martinez alone with Kethvar in the vast chamber. The magnitude of what they had just committed to was beginning to sink in. A year to start a revolution, Dr. Kim said quietly. No pressure at all. It's not a revolution, Marcus corrected. It's an evolution. We're going to prove that humans can grow beyond their worst impulses. Kethvar made the purring sound that Marcus had come to associate with approval. I will help however I can. My people have agreed to provide technical assistance to any human groups that commit to the principles of peaceful coexistence. As they prepared to return to the Aurora's dream for the journey home, Marcus felt the weight of destiny settling on his shoulders. They had prevented a war, at least temporarily. Now, they had to prove that humanity deserved to share the galaxy with beings like the dragons. It was going to be the hardest thing any of them had ever attempted. But as Marcus looked at the ancient beauty of the Heart of Discourse, as he remembered the trust in Kethvar's golden eyes, he felt that familiar spark of hope. Humanity had always been at its best when facing impossible odds. This time, the stakes were nothing less than their place in a larger universe. The Aurora's dream departed Dragon space, carrying more than 3 humans and their draconic friend. It carried the seeds of a transformation that would reshape human civilization forever. The message that changed everything was broadcast simultaneously across 47 human worlds. It arrived without warning, bypassing colonial authority communication networks through methods that government technicians would spend months trying to understand. Every public screen, every personal device, every emergency communication system in human space suddenly displayed the same image. Marcus Chun standing beside a living dragon. My name is Marcus Chun. The recording began, and I'm speaking to you from Dragon Space in the company of beings we nearly destroyed through ignorance and fear. On New Terra, Colonial Governor Patricia Reeves nearly choked on her morning coffee as she watched the impossible broadcast. Around the mining colony of Kepler Station, work crews stopped mid-shift to stare at screens showing Marcus explaining the Dragon test and humanity's 1-year deadline. On the frontier world of Haven's Rest, a young woman named Elena Vasquez set down her engineering tools and listened with growing excitement as Marcus described the possibility of a peaceful alliance with the most magnificent creatures she had ever seen. We have 1 year, Marcus continued, to prove that humanity can evolve beyond conquest and exploitation. 1 year to show the dragons and ourselves that we're capable of building something better than an empire based on fear. The reaction was immediate and polarized. Colonial authority news networks dismissed the broadcast as an elaborate hoax. Official statements accused Marcus of treason and collaboration with hostile alien forces. Warships were dispatched to search for the transmission source. Though their pilots had no idea, they were looking for a ship that had already returned from the far side of known space. But for every official denunciation, 10,000 private messages flooded underground networks. Scientists who had grown disgusted with military restrictions on xenobiology research. Colony administrators tired of enforcing brutally exploitative policies. Ordinary citizens who had always believed that humanity could do better. The revolution began quietly in coffee shops and maintenance tunnels, in encrypted forums and whispered conversations between friends. It began with Dr. Amanda Foster, chief xenobiologist at the University of Alpha Centauri, submitting her resignation and publicly announcing her intention to join Marcus's coalition. It began with Captain James Wu of the merchant vessel Stellar Pride, broadcasting his ship's new policy of carrying refugees from colonial authority oppression free of charge. It began with the entire population of Meridian Colony voting to declare independence and request protection from the growing alliance of free human worlds. Marcus returned to Haven Station to find it transformed into the unofficial headquarters of something that was growing faster than anyone had expected. The small research facility buzzed with activity as representatives from dozens of worlds arrived daily, bringing resources, expertise, and, most importantly, hope. Dr. Kim had established a communication center in the station's main laboratory, coordinating with contacts across human space. Charts covered the walls, tracking which colonies were wavering, which had declared for the coalition, and which remained firmly under authority control. The numbers are better than we dared hope, she told Marcus during a briefing session. 37 worlds have officially joined the coalition. Another 50 are seriously considering it. And even in authority-controlled space, we're seeing massive civil disobedience. Captain Martinez had taken charge of logistics, organizing the merchant fleet that was keeping the coalition world supplied and connected. The authorities try to blockade the rebel systems, she reported, but they don't have enough ships to cover everything. For every supply run they stop, 3 get through. But it was Kethvar who provided the most crucial assistance. The Dragon had taken up residence in Haven Station's expanded docking bay, serving as both ambassador and technical advisor to the growing human coalition. My people are impressed by your progress, Kethvar told Marcus during one of their daily meetings. Elder Morthek herself has expressed surprise at how quickly humans can organize when properly motivated. Are they providing the technical assistance they promised? Indeed, 3 dragons have been dispatched to coalition worlds to share knowledge of energy systems, agriculture, and medical techniques. Your people are eager students. Marcus had seen the reports. Dragon-assisted improvements in fusion reactors were providing clean energy to previously struggling colonies. Agricultural techniques that worked with local ecosystems rather than against them were producing unprecedented harvests. Medical knowledge that combined dragon longevity research with human innovation was saving lives throughout coalition space. But the most important development was happening on a world called New Geneva, where the coalition's leaders were gathering to draft the charter that would govern their new form of government. New Geneva had been a failed colony, abandoned by the colonial authority after its mineral resources proved less valuable than initial surveys suggested. The coalition had claimed it as a neutral meeting ground, and engineers from a dozen worlds were working around the clock to build facilities suitable for hosting the most important political gathering in human history. Marcus arrived on New Geneva 3 weeks before the Constitutional Convention was scheduled to begin. The planet was a study in contrasts. Ancient impact craters filled with crystal-clear lakes, mountain ranges that rose like cathedral spires into a pale blue sky, and valleys where Earth origin plants grew alongside native flora in unexpected harmony. The convention center itself was a marvel of cooperation between human engineering and dragon aesthetics. Built around a natural amphitheater, it incorporated flowing lines and organic curves that seemed to grow from the landscape rather than being imposed upon it. Dragon advisors had helped design acoustics that would carry voices clearly without electronic amplification, and power systems that drew energy from the planet's magnetic field rather than burning fossil fuels. Elena Vasquez was among the first delegates to arrive. The young engineer had become something of a celebrity after her dramatic speech to the Kepler station workers, convincing an entire mining operation to join the coalition. She found Marcus inspecting the convention center's communication systems. "Mr. Chun," she said, offering a formal handshake that Marcus waved off in favor of a more casual greeting. "I wanted to thank you personally for what you started here." "I didn't start anything," Marcus replied. "I just helped prevent a war. You and thousands of others like you are the ones building something new." Elena smiled. "My grandmother used to tell stories about the old Earth before the authority consolidated power. She said there was a time when people could choose their own governments, when they had a say in how they were ruled." "Democracy isn't dead," Marcus said. "We're just having to reinvent it for the space age." As more delegates arrived, the true scope of the coalition became apparent. There were mining engineers from asteroid installations, agricultural specialists from farming worlds, scientists from research stations, and merchants from the independent trade networks. There were colonial authority defectors carrying military secrets, and former authority officials who had grown disgusted with corruption and brutality. Dr. Sarah Kim arrived with a delegation from the scientific community, bringing with her detailed proposals for research sharing and joint exploration projects. Captain Martinez represented the merchant fleet, advocating for free trade agreements and mutual defense pacts. But perhaps the most surprising arrival was Admiral Catherine Hayes, former commander of the Colonial Authority's Third Fleet. Her defection 3 weeks earlier had sent shockwaves through authority leadership and brought nearly a third of the authority's experienced naval officers over to the coalition. The authority's been preparing for war with the dragons, Admiral Hayes reported during a closed-door security briefing. They've been developing new weapons systems specifically designed to counter dragon capabilities. My sources inside Central Command suggest they're planning a preemptive strike within the next 6 months. Marcus felt ice in his veins. They'd attack despite the peace negotiations. They see the negotiations as a delaying tactic while they prepare for inevitable conflict. The authority leadership believes that coexistence with powerful alien species is impossible. Dr. Kim looked up from her notes. "What kind of weapons are they developing?" "Neural disruptors based on captured dragon physiology samples. Plasma mines that can be deployed in dragon space to create kill zones. And something called Project Dragonfall, a biological weapon designed to target dragon DNA specifically." The room fell silent. Marcus had known that some authority officials were extremists, but the casual discussion of genocide was more than he had expected. How long before these weapons are ready for deployment? He asked. Dragonfall is still in development, but the neural disruptors and plasma mines are already in production. If they're going to act, it'll be within the next 4 to 6 months. Less time than they had hoped, but perhaps enough if the convention could move quickly. Marcus called an emergency session with the coalition's leadership committee. We need to accelerate our timeline, he announced. The authority is preparing for war, and we need to present a unified human government to the dragons before they strike. The next 3 days were a blur of around-the-clock negotiations. Delegates worked through meals and sleep cycles, hammering out compromises on everything from taxation to voting rights to military command structures. The charter that emerged was unlike any government document in human history. The United Human Coalition would be a federation of autonomous worlds, united by shared principles rather than centralized authority. Each member world would maintain its own domestic governance while participating in joint decisions about defense, trade, and foreign relations. Most importantly, the charter included specific protections for non-human sapient species and explicitly prohibited the development of xenocidal weapons. The signing ceremony took place at dawn on New Geneva's longest day. Representatives from 49 worlds put their names to a document that declared humanity's commitment to peaceful coexistence with other sapient species. As the last signature was added, Kethvar emerged from the communication center with news from Dragon Space. The Council of Elders has agreed to receive your delegation, the dragon announced. Elder Morthek herself will conduct the formal evaluation of your coalition's proposals. Marcus felt a mix of relief and terror. They had done it, created a new form of human government committed to peace with alien species. But now came the hardest test of all, convincing the dragons that this change was real and permanent. The delegation that departed for Dragon Space 3 days later was unlike anything that had ever represented humanity. Marcus led the group, accompanied by Dr. Kim, Captain Martinez, and Admiral Hayes. But they were joined by Elena Vasquez representing the working colonies, Dr. Foster representing the scientific community, and a dozen other coalition leaders. Most importantly, they carried with them signed treaties from 49 worlds, pledging those governments to the principles of peaceful coexistence. It was a document written in human languages, but incorporating dragon concepts of honor and long-term thinking. As the Aurora's dream and her escort of coalition vessels entered hyperspace for the journey to Dragon Space, Marcus reflected on how much had changed since his first encounter with a dying dragon in an asteroid field. He had acted out of simple compassion, never imagining that saving one life would lead to the transformation of human civilization itself. But as he looked at the dedication and hope in the faces around him, Marcus realized that Kethvar had been right about humanity's potential. They were capable of growth, capable of choosing cooperation over conquest when given the opportunity. Now, they just had to prove it to beings who had every reason to distrust human promises. The revolution had begun with a single act of mercy. In a few days, they would learn whether that revolution had been enough to earn humanity a place in a larger galactic community. Behind them, in the space they had left, the colonial authority was mobilizing its fleets for a war they believed was inevitable. The coalition had perhaps weeks before the old order made its final, desperate attempt to maintain control through violence. Everything depended on what happened next in the ancient chambers where dragons gathered to decide the fate of 2 species. The heart of discourse had transformed since Marcus's last visit. Where before it had housed dozens of dragons for a simple council session, it now accommodated hundreds of the ancient beings. Representatives from every dragon clutch in known space had gathered to witness what the eldest called the first true test of human worthiness. The human delegation felt impossibly small as they were escorted through corridors that seemed to pulse with living light. Marcus walked beside Kethvar, drawing strength from the dragon's calm presence. Behind them, Dr. Kim reviewed her presentation notes one final time while Admiral Hayes studied the tactical implications of so many powerful beings gathered in one place. "Remember," Kethvar said quietly as they approached the great assembly chamber, "dragons value honesty above all else. Do not attempt to hide your species' flaws or exaggerate your achievements. They will sense deception immediately." The assembly chamber itself defied description. It stretched upward into misty heights that might have reached the station's outer hull, with tiers of dragon perches arranged in complex geometric patterns. At the center, a circular platform waited for the human speakers, surrounded by technology that would translate their words into the harmonic frequencies of dragon speech. Elder Morthek occupied the highest perch, her ancient form radiating an authority that had guided dragon civilization for millennia. Around her, representatives from every major dragon clutch took their positions according to protocols that predated human civilization. Marcus recognized several dragons from his previous visit. Nixthalan of the Void Clutch, whose challenge had set this entire process in motion. Kaler Thek the Crimson, still skeptical of human intentions. But there were dozens of others he had never seen, beings whose scales showed patterns and colors that spoke of distant star systems and experiences beyond human imagination. Humans of the United Coalition, Elder Morthek's voice resonated through the chamber with the weight of eons. You stand before the assembled wisdom of our people. You claim to offer a new path for your species, one that leads away from the darkness that struck down Veltar and wounded Kethvar unto death. Prove these claims with words and deed. Marcus stepped forward, performing the formal greeting gesture that Kethvar had taught him. His human movements felt clumsy in this place of ancient grace, but the dragons received his courtesy with respectful attention. "Elders, representatives of the dragon people," Marcus began, "we come before you not as conquerors or supplicants, but as neighbors seeking to share the galaxy in peace. We bring proof that humanity can choose growth over greed, cooperation over conquest." Dr. Kim activated the holographic display they had prepared during the journey. Images filled the air above the speaking platform, footage from Coalition worlds showing humans and dragons working together, documents signed by planetary governments, technical schematics that incorporated dragon knowledge. 49 human worlds have committed to the principles of peaceful coexistence, Dr. Kim explained. These governments have legally prohibited the development of weapons designed to target non-human species. They have agreed to joint exploration protocols and resource-sharing agreements. Admiral Hayes stepped forward, her military bearing evident even in this alien setting. More than that, we have identified and neutralized the extremist elements within our own government that authorize the attacks on your people. A ripple of interest went through the assembled dragons. Kaler Thek leaned forward on his perch. "Explain this neutralization, Admiral of Humans." 3 weeks ago, colonial authority forces attempted to deploy the weapons Dr. Kim mentioned, neural disruptors and biological agents designed to target dragon physiology. Coalition forces intercepted these weapons and destroyed them. The scientists responsible for their development have been arrested and await trial for crimes against sapient beings. The Dragon Assembly erupted in harmonic discussions that sounded like music played on instruments the size of starships. Marcus caught fragments of meaning through his translator: surprise, approval, continued skepticism, cautious hope. Elena Vasquez spoke next, representing the Coalition's working communities. "The changes we've made aren't just political, they're cultural. Entire generations of humans are growing up with the knowledge that we share the galaxy with wise and ancient beings. Our children learn dragon philosophy alongside human science, and they dream of exploration rather than conquest. But it was Kethvar who provided the most powerful testimony." The dragon moved to the center of the platform, its scarred form a living reminder of the violence that had brought them all to this moment. "My people," Kethvar said, its voice carrying the harmonics of deep emotion, "I have lived among these humans for nearly a year. I have seen their capacity for both greatness and failure. Yes, there are those among them who choose darkness, the ones who struck down Veltar and left me dying in the void. But there are many more who choose light. The dragon turned toward the human delegation. Marcus Shun found me broken and bleeding, and he could have taken my body to his superiors for study and profit. Instead, he risked everything to save my life. Dr. Sarah Kim tended my wounds with the same care she would show her own clutchmates. Captain Martinez carried me home when my enemies would have seen me die in darkness. Kethvar's golden eyes swept across the assembly. But more than individual acts of kindness, these humans have shown they can change. They have torn down their old government and built something new, something that recognizes the rights of all sapient beings. They have risked civil war to prove that they are worthy of trust. Nixthalen of the Void Clutch stirred on her perch. Pretty words, Kethvar of the Emerald Clutch. But how do we know this change is permanent? How do we know that human generations, yet unborn, will honor these agreements? Dr. Kim activated another section of their presentation. We propose a formal alliance structure with built-in safeguards. Mixed crews on exploration vessels, joint colonies where humans and dragons share resources and knowledge, exchange programs that ensure continued understanding between our peoples. Cultural integration, Admiral Hayes added, backed by military cooperation. Coalition defense forces will include dragon advisors, and dragon exploration fleets will welcome human observers. Any future aggression by either species against the other would require betraying allies who have become friends. Marcus watched the dragons process this information. Some showed obvious approval. Wings rustling in patterns he had learned indicated agreement. Others remained skeptical, their body language suggesting continued wariness about human intentions. Then, Elder Morthek spoke, and the entire assembly fell silent. "We have heard your words, humans of the Coalition. We have studied your documents and observed your actions. The proposal you present is unprecedented in our experience. No species has ever offered such extensive integration with dragon civilization." The ancient being paused, and Marcus felt the weight of millennia behind her next words. But words are wind, and promises can be broken. If we are to trust your species with knowledge of our science, our culture, our most sacred places, we require more than good intentions. Marcus felt his heart sink. They had offered everything they could think of: legal treaties, military cooperation, cultural exchange. What more could the dragons possibly want? It was Kaler Thek who provided the answer, his crimson scales catching the chamber's shifting light. "A blood bond," he said. "Ancient tradition among our people. When two species seek true alliance, they must be willing to share fate itself." Dr. Kim looked confused. "What does that mean exactly?" Nixthalen responded, her shadow-dark form seeming to absorb light from the surrounding air. "It means that the success or failure of one species becomes bound to the success or failure of the other. Dragons will live on human worlds, humans will live in dragon space. Children will be raised learning both cultures. If humanity falls to war or disaster, dragons will share that fate. If dragons face extinction, humanity will stand with us against the darkness." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. The dragons weren't just asking for an alliance. They were proposing complete integration of their civilizations. No going back, no maintaining separate spheres of influence. Success together or failure together for all time. That's... Admiral Hayes started, then stopped, apparently unable to find words for the magnitude of what was being proposed. "Terrifying, Dr. Kim finished quietly. "And wonderful." Marcus looked at his companions, seeing his own mix of fear and hope reflected in their faces. This was far beyond anything they had imagined when they set out to prevent a war. The dragons were offering not just peace, but partnerships so complete that neither species would ever be the same. "We would need to consult with our coalition governments," Marcus said carefully. "A decision this momentous has already been made," a new voice interrupted. Every head in the chamber turned toward the entrance. where a familiar figure strode through the opening with confident steps. Admiral Catherine Hayes, but not alone. Behind her came a procession of humans that included President-elect Maria Santos of the United Coalition, Dr. Foster representing the scientific community, and representatives from every coalition world. President Santos, Marcus said in shock. "How did you get here?" "The same way you did," Santos replied with a smile. "Though our journey was considerably faster, thanks to some very interesting propulsion technology our new dragon friends shared with us." Elder Morthek made the harmonic sound that Marcus had learned indicated amusement. "Did you truly believe, Marcus Chun, that dragons cannot travel faster than human ships when necessity demands? Your President Santos contacted us 3 days ago with an interesting proposal." President Santos stepped onto the speaking platform. "The United Coalition of Human Worlds formally requests not just an alliance with dragon civilization, but full partnership. We're prepared to sign the covenant of shared destinies, binding our species together for all time." The chamber erupted in dragon song, harmonies that spoke of surprise, joy, and deep approval. Even Kalerthek's aggressive posture softened as he absorbed the implications of the human offer. But it was Elder Morthek's response that sealed the moment. The ancient dragon spread her massive wings and began a song that was taken up by every dragon in the chamber. The sound built and built, rising through harmonics that touched something deep in Marcus's soul. When the song ended, Morthek spoke words that would echo through history. "Let it be recorded in the heart of all memory that on this day, in the presence of the assembled wisdom of our people, dragons and humans have chosen to walk the path of the future together. Let it be recorded that Kethvar of the Emerald Clutch, wounded unto death by human weapons, was healed by human hands and human hearts. And let it be recorded," the eldest continued, "that from this moment forward, an attack on one species shall be considered an attack on both. The fate of dragons and the fate of humans are now as one." The signing ceremony that followed lasted for hours, with representatives from dozens of human worlds and every major dragon clutch adding their marks to documents that would reshape the galaxy. But Marcus barely noticed the formalities. He was watching Kethvar, seeing the deep satisfaction in the dragon's golden eyes. "You knew," Marcus said quietly during a break in the proceedings. "When you first asked me to bring you home, you knew it would lead to this." Kethvar made the purring sound that Marcus had come to love. "I hoped. Dragons live long lives, Marcus Chun. We learn to think in terms of centuries and millennia. When I saw the kindness in your heart, I dared to hope that it represented something larger in your species. And now I know. Humanity and dragonkind will face the future together, as it was always meant to be." 10 years later, Marcus Chun stood on the observation deck of the Starship Harmony, watching as human and dragon crews worked together to establish the first joint colony in the Andromeda Galaxy. His daughter, adopted from one of the refugee worlds, played with her dragon clutchmate in the ship's garden, their laughter echoing through corridors that had been designed by both species working in perfect cooperation. The Colonial Authority was a memory now, its remaining fleets absorbed into the Coalition Defense Force or disbanded entirely. The extremists who had tried to start a war with the dragons were serving life sentences on prison worlds, their genocidal weapons nothing but cautionary tales in history books. But more than that, humanity itself had been transformed. Children grew up bilingual in human languages and dragon harmonics. Scientists collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of both species' understanding. Artists created works that combined human creativity with dragon wisdom accumulated over millennia. There have been challenges, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, political disagreements, the inevitable growing pains of merging two completely different civilizations. But they have been worked through with patience and mutual respect, guided by the principle that both species were stronger together than they could ever be apart. Marcus touched the scar on his arm where he had received his first dragon scale implant, a biotechnological marvel that allowed direct neural communication with dragon partners. Beside him, Kethvar rested in the modified couch that accommodated the dragon's bulk in human design spaces. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked, "giving up the purity of dragon civilization for this mixed future?" Kethvar's response carried harmonics of deep contentment. "I regret nothing, my friend. We dragons were ancient and wise, but we were also static. Your people brought us the gift of change, of growth, of looking toward tomorrow instead of dwelling on yesterday." Through the viewport, Marcus could see the first dragon design buildings taking shape on the planet below, their organic curves rising alongside human structures in a cityscape unlike anything that had existed before. In a few years, children would be born there who would never know a universe where humans and dragons lived apart. Besides, Kethvar added with what Marcus could swear was amusement, "Someone had to keep your species from destroying yourselves through short-sighted aggression. Consider it our civic duty." Marcus laughed, a sound that mixed with Kethvar's harmonic purring to create something entirely new, the sound of two species that had learned to sing in harmony. In the ship's communication center, messages arrived daily from across known space. Reports from joint exploration fleets discovering wonders that neither species could have imagined alone. Updates from research stations where human innovation and dragon wisdom were solving problems that had puzzled each civilization for centuries. The universe was vast, and there were other species out there, some friendly, some hostile, some so alien that communication might be impossible. But whatever challenges lay ahead, humanity and dragonkind would face them together. It had all started with one man's decision to save a dying creature in an asteroid field. That single act of mercy had grown into something greater than anyone could have predicted, an alliance that spanned star systems, a partnership that would last for millennia. Marcus Chun had once lost everything for trying to do the right thing in an impossible situation. Now, as he watched the future being built by human hands and dragon claws working in perfect cooperation, he understood that sometimes the right choice was also the choice that changed everything. The dragons had returned to protect his people, just as the old stories promised. But more than that, they had chosen to become his people, and humanity had chosen to become theirs. In a vast symphony of space, two species had learned to sing in harmony, and their song would echo through eternity.